So we're answering kitchen design questions, and I get lots of them on my chat, not in the chat, but in my comments through the weeks, on various videos, and this is a good opportunity to answer some of those live. But here's a question that you definitely should be thinking about, that you definitely should have someone asking you. It's the scariest question for most people to be asked, not only because of the topic of this question. You can probably guess what it is, but it has to do with money. So this is the question that you definitely should be asked when planning out a kitchen renovation. So, how much money should I expect to pay? That's something that that thought should obviously be on your mind, and obviously it is. You likely have an idea of what your budget is, but someone should be asking you that so that they can make a plan for you that fits into what you expect to pay. Now, sometimes people ask me, well, what should I expect to pay for a kitchen renovation? And it's a really difficult question to answer because there is no answer to that question. So normally what I ask is, how much money do you have? Are you filthy rich? Like, I don't know. Are you pinching pennies to, and separating toilet paper to get through to the next roll? Like, it depends on how much money you have. And so that is a really difficult question. Now, you likely have an understanding of what I am willing to pay, or what I think I would want to pay, or what I think it would be worth or cost or the value. But many people don't have that question asked to them by a salesperson or a designer, or when they do, it feels awkward. We don't want to seem like, a car salesman. No offense to any car salesman. That's not what I'm saying, that's anything bad. But that vibe of just trying to be sold something, and if I know how much money you're willing to spend, then I can, really grease you and get that amount out of you and whatever. But it's a really important question to be asked and to have a conversation about, so that you can understand exactly the material, the size and the type, and the depth of what you're going to put into the kitchen. Because I see some numbers popping up. If you have a $20,000 budget, but you have a $50,000 kitchen plan and design, well, you're going to be disappointed somewhere along the line, or you're going to take out, a second mortgage on your home or something. You might make a bad decision financially that's not worth doing in the long run. And so having those questions is very important. And so when you get a kitchen quote, that should be something that it should not surprise you that when they come back with your kitchen, that it's okay, it's going to be, $21,000. Okay, just pick a number, because you've already would have had that conversation and you have an idea of, this is how much this amount of money is going to get me, and how far that can stretch. And there's a lot of variables when it comes to pricing a kitchen, a lot of variables. So when I get asked that question, it's like, I don't know. They're like, well, you've been doing this for 20 years. How much does a kitchen cost? I don't know how much a kitchen costs. I don't know. How much does a house cost? I really don't know. They all cost a different amount depending on a lot of factors. And it's no different with kitchens. There's no one number. There's no standard. There's no anything that you can go by and say, well, this is the price of a kitchen. So I will say you could probably get a kitchen for $3,000 and $300,000. So you pick a number in between there, and you probably find yourself a pretty good kitchen. So, hard question to answer, but a very good conversation to have with a designer or salesperson or contractor, to really get that idea of, this is what I expect to pay, and so is this reasonable? And that should be something that, well, you want this type of appliance, or you want this type of countertop, you want this type of design or this size kitchen. So yes, that does sound reasonable. Or no, it's not even close. Instead of getting all excited about your 3D dimensions and about all the stuff that's going to happen, and then realizing that we can't afford this at all, then it's like, oh shoot, like now I'm disappointed. But then you get this temptation to be like, well, maybe if I do this, we'll sell the car. And well, the kids don't have to be in hockey or soccer this year, and well, we can forget about university for that kid. And it's like, just well, stop. It's only a kitchen. Just wait. Maybe there's a way to get a really good layout for the budget that you want, and that's the that's the kicker. That's the key thing. All right, cool. So that's the first one. That's something that definitely should be something that you answer or have answered. And I'm going to jump over here because I see some questions. I'm going to try to get back here. Na, 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 na. So we'll try to go back up here. All right, Will. Hey, Will. What's the best choice between counter space and a pantry? Thinking of using some counter space area and putting in a pantry, small kitchen, pour storage, about 8 feet length of counter space. Depends on the size of the pantry, but I wouldn't go anything smaller than an 18-inch wide, maybe a 15, but that's getting to be a bit, narrow, because you definitely want to have some pullets in there. So the narrower your pantry is, the narrower your pullets are going to be on the inside. And that could be fine at 15, but 18 inches is pretty good for a single door. And then that still gives you, a little bit of landing area and countertop space in your kitchen. And I definitely think you should have a pantry if you can put one in, but there's no need to go with like something super wide and overbearing. You can definitely do something narrower and still get a lot of use out of it and a lot of function out of it if it's, designed in such a way, like with pullouts and whatnot. If that's done, that would be fine. So with 8 feet of counter and you're putting that in there, it still leaves you with quite a bit of counter space. And I'm assuming you have other things in there like sink, or maybe you have a range in there as well. But that's what I would say the best choice between counter space and pantry. So like, yeah, you want to like break that up a little bit if you can. And I don't see anything wrong with that. As long as you're not using all your counter space and you do have, at least 24 to 36 inches of somewhere that's just, freed up for you to use, that's pretty good. But it depends on the size of the space, and it's, there's no one right answer. It comes down to how you want to use it, and that's really important. So really good question. Make sure, peoples, that you get into that chat, or not in the chat. Well, yeah, get in the chat too, but get into that poll. Tell me about your microwave use so far. Multiple times a day is coming out on top, but not by a long shot. So interesting. Right on. Let's keep going. Okay, so you're thinking about putting a 3 foot wide. It depends on what else is in that space. 3 feet's a great size pantry. No question about it. So that would be a judgment call on your part. But no smaller than 18. So, maybe split the difference and go with something in between that. That would be good too. All right. Let's keep going. Alan, you're still dealing with IKEA. Back order in November. Oh, wow. You're finally going to get a completed full kitchen. Congratulations. It's crazy. It's still something that's happening. All right, let's go to the next question. Hey, Cynthia finally made it live. Cool. Awesome for you to be on. Really, really nice to have you. And Ashlyn, hey, Ashlyn. What do you think about moving outlets to the bottom of upper cabinets? My backsplash tile has a raised geometric pattern. Do you mean those strips that you can get? I've seen those. They look fairly usable. Or are you moving the outlet up? I think it depends on what's code maybe for your particular area, but I don't have a problem with that. I know that if you have a really nice backsplash pattern, having an outlet stuck in it can, be a little bit whatever. So it's not, it's fine. I think it's fine to do. I know you can get those strips that sit up underneath. Someone sent me a picture of it here. I don't think it was you, Alan. Somebody did. And yeah, it definitely is something you can do, especially if you don't want to, mess with your backsplash. So I have no problem with that. And there's ways to do that. But it just depends on if you're moving the actual box and outlet, or are you putting in one of those strips, because they're kind of two different things. And again, code is something you'd have to check into. So, hey, Aaron, you haven't been able to make it, but you're back. Woo! Awesome. Like the green hair too. Very cool. I can't pull off green, maybe in my beard, but no. All right, let's keep going. So we're getting some thoughts about pricing. So Tim's saying that we went through a pretty thorough reno in this house. We did a bunch of labor ourselves, which is always good. Repaint the cabinets, okay, and had a good deal of new clothes from like so 10K. So 10K is a pretty good price tag on the amount of stuff that you're doing, especially if you're keeping your cabinets and repainting them and getting quartz, because sometimes just quartz alone, a kitchen full of quartz could cost you 10 grand. So awesome. It's awesome to get deals, and especially when you're doing some of the labor yourself. If you can do that, it's definitely the way to go. But I don't necessarily would recommend it if you're going to install a kitchen. I always recommend to have that done professionally. Not that anybody can't do it. It's just good to have somebody who's done it before do it, because it's not putting up a couple 2x4s. So, but everyone's different. Right. So we got lots of good questions. Here's okay. Let's do this one. How do I size a kitchen island for butchering? I need to be able to break down a half beef or a whole lamb. The equipment can't figure out the room I need. I have never been asked that question. That's interesting. I don't know how do you size an island for butchering? I would say that's big enough to put a cow on it. I don't know. Uh, that's a really interesting question. I don't rarely get stumped. I do sometimes, but this is definitely one of those questions that I really don't have a great answer for. So Tim's saying allow for tools at the end of the island. I don't know what the type of tools that you need for that. I don't know how big I don't know what they look like. So that is a really good question. There's room for a wide 20 or 20, but 10x4 island would definitely fit. A 10x4 island is an awesome size. So yeah, I would say that that's a great size for an island, because even you go well if you have room for 20 by 25. I'm assuming you want to be able to reach across it, so that is 4 feet wide enough to do that. And yeah, sorry, I'm thrown off by the spammers. I'm having trouble getting my words out. And you stumped me with this butchering question. I can't believe it. I have no idea. So yeah, so allow for tools at the end. Very late from Europe. Thank you so much for being on. My apologies, everyone. All right, here's another question that I'm going to ask you guys a question. Hi, Mark. I want to remove the natural gas stove and replace it with electric. Is it easy to remove the gas stove, or should I hire a professional to do this? Yeah, you're dealing with gas lines. You want to hire a professional for sure. I wouldn't touch that at all. Yeah, definitely hire a professional. You don't want to mess around with that stuff, because it has to be capped off, I'm sure, in a particular way, and you don't want to get into that. So that's my best advice there. All right, back to this island. You want a 10x4 for half a beef. It allows you to have full offal buckets, knives, and any other tools. Timothy sounds like he's butchered a cow before. So thank you for answering this question, because I have no idea. But there you go. You need offal buckets, knives, and any other tools. I'm very interested in this. Wow. Very cool. And the Deco Kaj is saying it shouldn't be too expensive to cap a gas line. Yeah, probably not that big a deal to do. So, okay, let me jump over to this. All right, the next question. Here's a good question that you should be asked, or you should think about when you are planning a kitchen renovation, is what do you like and dislike about your current kitchen? Oftentimes, you use your kitchen in such a way that you have a particular flow. Things are in a particular spot. Now, maybe it's not organized the way you want it to, or it's not as functional as you'd like it to be, but you still use it, and you're used to things being in a particular way, and you like things in a particular way. You just want it to be better. And what you don't want to do is take the good, better parts of your current kitchen and get rid of those in place of a new kitchen, which may be functional, have lots of storage and counter space and everything, but missing those elements that really make your kitchen what it is, and the way that you work in it. So not only what do you dislike about your kitchen, what you want changed, but what do you actually like about your kitchen? Something that you definitely should consider and think about. And because oftentimes it's like, well, I just want to get rid of this old kitchen, but the way you use it is very familiar, and that's okay. So that's definitely something that you should be thinking about, in my opinion, is not only what you don't like, what you want changed, but what are the elements you want to keep, and communicate